How's it going, everybody? Today I want to go over first an interesting trend I've noticed over the last 2 weeks, and then I want to take a look back at the First Step Act and some of the people it's helped. So I wanted to start here with something I've been seeing as a pretty disturbing trend, and which I feel like is indicative of these people having their backs pushed up against the wall. It's a little scary, but thankfully we have good people protecting the president right now. But that being said, I wanted to go through them real fast because I think it's interesting that this all happened within less than 2 weeks, about 10, 11 days span. Now first, back on August 6th, you had 3 teenagers which were arrested for jumping the wall into Mar-a-Lago with a loaded AK-47. It says here that they were being pursued by police and that they had a semi-automatic gun in their backpack and jumped the wall at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, but probably didn't know where they were. Yeah, right. Okay. So, you know what? I'll tell you what. If this was the only case, maybe I could be inclined to believe that, but it is not the only case. Because a few days later, while Trump was giving a press conference, a man bum rushed the Secret Service on August 10th with a gun and dropped down into a drawing motion. And he was shot, but it looks like that he was trying to kill this cop, so I guess he could just jump over the fence then, and God knows what. And again, the president has great Secret Service. I'm sure the guy wouldn't have even gotten close if he did hop the fence. But it's still scary stuff. And then later that night, a mysterious fire pops up at a generator plant at JFK Airport. And you can see this footage right here. Let's go off in the back. So that could have been potentially really, really bad. And for some of you that don't know, JFK is in Jamaica, Queens, which is where the president grew up. He grew up in Jamaica Estates, which is at the north end of Jamaica, and this was at the south end of Jamaica, which right by the belt. That's where that was taken. So that's 3 instances within a couple days, one at his Florida residence in Mar-a-Lago, one where he is now at the White House, and then one in the town where he grew up. Followed the next day by someone firing shots at an Air Force helicopter right by the White House. One person in the helicopter was injured, but the agency didn't specify whether they had been shot. They do not believe it's life-threatening, thank God. But they had shot a bunch of bullets at this helicopter, at this Air Force helicopter by the White House, all right? So that's 4 instances now. And then right after that, President Trump had returned to Bedminster because of his brother. A suspicious plane had entered the airspace and was ignoring NORAD fighter jets to the point where they actually had to fire flares at it to get its attention. So that is 5 extremely shady instances, all within a freaking couple days, less than 2 weeks, 4 of which having to do with the president's different residences and 1 having to do with his detail. You have his residence in Mar-a-Lago, you have his current residence in the White House, you have where he grew up in Queens, you have people shooting at their helicopters, then you have a suspicious instance at his place in New Jersey. One right after the other, all in about a 10-day period. And I think it's indicative that these people's backs are up against the wall, all right? I do not think that these are all just rare occurrences, that all these things just happened one right after the other. And they had called him back. He had already went to New Jersey because if you remember, on the same day that this happened, he had said, you won't be seeing me for a while because he had made a deal to lower prescription drug prices, which he was saying Big Pharma is obviously not happy. Duh. No president has done anything like that. And it's just you're talking an insane amount of money he just took out of their pockets. So he had went to New Jersey. They called him right back, and this happens the second he's back. So I don't trust this for a second, especially since it was followed right up by their helicopters getting shot at, and then by suspicious airplanes entering his airspace when he's back in Bedminster to visit his brother, who unfortunately did pass away, and he had suffered from brain bleed from a fall that he had taken. And I thought this was a really nice statement that the president had released and said that it's with heavy heart that I share that my wonderful brother Robert peacefully passed away tonight. He was not just my brother, he was my best friend. He will be greatly missed. We will meet again. His memory will live on in my heart forever. Robert, I love you. Rest in peace. And man, that really just breaks my heart for him. Especially, he says he was his best friend. That's how I am with my brother, so I could totally understand that. And I just want to say my prayers go out to the president and his family, and everyone who was close to Robert. And he's in a better place right now. And I thought this was a really touching statement that he sent, and hopefully the president has better peace of mind now that Robert's at rest. But again, that caps off a lot of questionable events, and that things are getting really hairy. It's the last couple months before the election. These people are showing their true colors by far. I mean, you don't have to look any further than Twitter, where wrong Trump was trending. I mean, that's just dark, dude. If you can't put it on hold for one freaking day when someone is grieving, that's a bad case. That is just. And here's the guy, and he gets no credit for anything. They hit on this guy over and over again, and his freaking brother dies. And they're trending because they just trend nasty stuff. And that's the media that starts these trends. They have their little plants everywhere, and they start it and they ramp it up, and then people go along with it because they're just getting sucked into this hatred, and it's really hard to watch. And thankfully, a lot of people called them out on it, and eventually the hashtag was squashed. But this is just disgusting. It's straight up disgusting. They give this guy no credit. That's why a lot of people still think they hate him. They have no idea what he's done. There are people in this country who have no clue of half the things that Donald Trump has done since he's been in president. Just the other day, President Donald Trump has secured a historic deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates to advance peace and prosperity in the region. I mean, this could potentially, Donald Trump could have just potentially brought peace to the Middle East, and they won't care. They won't even talk about this, nothing. They'd rather trend nasty things. And you look at Sean King. You think Sean King would love Donald Trump? Here's him from 2 years ago. I'll be frank and tell you two Democrats that I'm 99% I won't be supporting, primarily because of their dismal history and criminal justice reform over the course of their entire careers, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They both helped to build and advance mass incarceration. Well, yeah, absolutely. He's actually right for once. Sean King, the race baiter who does nothing but cause turmoil on Twitter, actually said something that made sense. I mean, Joe Biden, he wrote the historic crime bill that they call the Clinton crime bill that just ramped up mass incarceration that was already ramping up. And Kamala Harris has jailed so many people as a prosecutor. It's insane. But you don't hear this guy talk about the First Step Act, which has helped so many people get released from prison. You'll never hear this guy give Trump or any of his team any credit on any of the things they do. The guy actually pushed criminal justice reform, probably one of the biggest things any president's done in our lifetime, and you get crickets. But he'll rail against it, and then of course he'll change his mind once his controllers tell him what to do, because this guy, they don't believe in anything they're saying. You understand? It's just all a show. They're all just create division, or they create turmoil, or now he's for. That's it for me. This is from last week, all right? That was from 2 years ago. Now here's Sean King from last week. That's it for me. I'm incredibly proud to see a brilliant black woman and an HBCU grad chosen as vice presidential nominee. I've done political work my whole life. It's rarely things dreams are made of. Kamala Harris is the most progressive VP nominee in American history. Yeah, okay. So just compare the two. Just look at the two and reconcile. You tell me who's fake. If he was really believed the things he said in this post, he would be voting for President Trump. He'd actually be promoting President Trump right now, but he's not. Because all they do is create division. Sun Tzu, Art of War. If his forces are united, separate them. And, that comes in all forms. That comes from them. That comes from people who are pretending to be Trump supporters. There is going to be now over the next 2 months a push to try and divide everyone into groups. Because when you're in groups, you're easier to manipulate and you can cause fights and just the whole thing. So this is going to be one of their tactics. And it is pushing up to the election. And if people were actually privy to all the things this man has done, boy, it wouldn't even be a contest. But unfortunately, thanks to the media and thanks to people like Sean King, it is going to be a contest, which means we have to get everyone out to vote, as many people out to vote as we possibly can. We cannot, not a single person can stay home on November 3rd. And if that happens, I really think we have enough people to override all their voter fraud. I mean, come on. Everyone on both sides knows what mail-in voting means. That's why they're pushing for it. They're all playing dumb like, no, you know darn well it's not good. Yeah, right, please. They know what it is. That's why they're pushing for it. But all their voter fraud in the world, if we all make sure to go out and vote, and if we work these next couple months to really bring awareness to all the great things the president has done, I think the president has a great chance of being reelected, and I think that's going to be a really happy day. And really a happy day for liberals, too, whether they know it or not, because we will have just re-voted in a president who puts his money where his mouth is. Unlike leftist leaders like Shaun King, who when it comes time to support a president who actually did pass criminal justice reform, is instead opting to vote for the exact opposite. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the First Step Act, here's a little montage that should help clear things up.
Many people said, in fact, I guess we could say almost all people said that criminal justice reform would never pass. But we came together as a group, we worked across party lines, and we got it done. And it's an incredible thing when you see some of the people here, so conservative and then some so liberal. And we just have a lot of great people. They came together. They knew it had to be done. As president, I pledged to work with both parties for the good of the whole nation. And that's what it is. It's for the good of the whole nation. And it's something that is so important to me in terms of this and lots of other things. And it's happening slowly but surely. It's all happening. The more I met and spoke with those involved in our criminal justice system, the more clear it became that unfair sentencing rules were contributing to the cycle of poverty and crime like really nothing else before. It was time to fix this broken system, and it's a system of the past, and to improve the lives of so many people. And you look at the safety and all of the things that are happening now as a result of the First Step. As an example, nonviolent prisoners will have opportunities to participate in vocational training, education, and drug treatment programs. When they get out of prison, they will be ready to get a job instead of turning back to a life of crime. Right? And I'm thrilled to report that since I signed the First Step Act, more than 16,000 inmates have already enrolled in drug treatment programs. And my administration intends to fully fund and implement this historic law. It's happening, and it's happening fast, and it's a lot for some people to understand, and as soon as they understand it, they say, wow, why didn't we do this a long time ago? The First Step Act also ensures that those in prison are placed closer to their families and home communities so they can have that communication that they need, greatly easing their return to society. It's really important. Really important. And finally, the law rolls back provisions of the 1994 Clinton crime law that was so devastating to so many and that disproportionately impacted the African American community. Nobody believes how much, and now they understand it. In less than 4 months, more than 500 people with unfair sentences have been released from prison and are free to begin a new life.
Freedom came today for more than 3,000 people. They were released from prison and halfway houses across the country under the First Step Act signed into law by the president last year. Mola Lenghi has the story of one woman who is taking those precious first steps.
It's impacted my life dramatically. I'm home with my family and my children. It's given me a head start on restoring my life and my children's life.
If it wasn't for Trump and the First Step Act, I'll still be doing time. I would still be incarcerated and I wouldn't be sitting here today. So I'm very grateful for the president for signing that law.
The U.S. Sentencing Commission says those changes can help more than 140,000 people in prison.
I want to thank the president for giving me another leash on life. If it wasn't for you, Mr. President, I'll still be serving 5 years in prison.
First, I would just like to say thank you to the president for giving everybody a chance, because a lot of times there are people in prison and you don't really know their goals or what they want in life unless they have a chance. my motto is just, to help one person anywhere is to help secure the future everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go! Sugar Bear! Sugar Bear!
I got it on compassionate release for my daughter, and because of that, I'll be able to spend what time she has left with her.
Take your time, man.
She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in September, and they have since gave her a grave prognosis. And because of the bill and the First Step Act, I'll be able to spend the rest of her time with her. And I thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. You take care.
I'm truly humbled. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. Jared, the president, thank that you were insistent about getting this bill passed and signed. When it stalled in the Senate, and you informed Mitch McConnell you wanted to actually do this before that Senate and Congress went out. I'm always remember that. So I'm just humble, thankful. In all, I'm still pleasantly overwhelmed, and it's an experience that I never forget. Thank you.
When y'all passed this, I could have fell through the floor. Because I had been waiting for years and years for them to pass that mandatory minimum. That's a hard thing. But I'm grateful. I thank everybody who put their hands in it, all the hard work. And I really thank you for signing that bill. So when you signed it, I could have went through the floor. Thank you so much.
2 months ago, I was in a prison cell, and I'm in the White House. Let's continue to make America great again.
Thank you so much. First of all, everyone knows me. I have to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ first. And I want to thank our incredible president, President Donald John Trump. I just told him I finally get a chance to hug you and properly say thank you for believing in me. And I'd like to thank all of the advocates who have fought so long for me, who have been working behind the scenes trying to magnify my case. I thank everyone in this room for your prayers. And I also want to thank the media for being so kind to me, because you have really helped magnify my story. But thank you.
And a couple of people, Van Jones, please stand up, please. He goes after me on occasion, but you know what? He came together with this one. We all agree this is very, very strong. This is a great bonding, and we appreciate it. You worked very hard on it, along with Ivanka. Please stand up. Ivanka. And the First Step Act proves that really, beyond almost anything we can think of, our country can achieve amazing breakthroughs when we put politics aside and put the interests of all Americans first. It's true, so true, especially in these times.
All right, so that's just a handful of the thousands of people whom which this bill has already touched. A few more things that weren't mentioned by the president is that this bill also stops juveniles from being placed in solitary confinement. It shortens mandatory minimum sentences, changes the 3-strike rule from life in prison to just 25 years, expands the cap on good time credit. It gives judges more leeway to deviate from mandatory minimum sentences if they so wish. So overall, just a great win for criminal justice reform. And if any of these phonies actually cared, they'd be pushing President Trump right now. Where we go one, we go all.